Okay, let me call this meeting of the Onslow County Board, Special Board of Education meeting to order here. Good morning.
Good morning.
May I have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, it approved. We've got one item on the general business agenda, the award of architectural services contract for Central Services Facility. And our Chief of Operations, Steve Myers, is going to present to us on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. Today I'd like to talk to you about an opportunity for architectural selection for Central Services and Facilities. As part of the 10-year capital construction plan approved by the Board of Education last December and recognized by the county in March of 2022, we have identified a need for central service facilities, which include the Educational Support Center, the transportation facility, and additional capacity for school nutrition main storage facility. These facilities were built between 1950 and 1975. The original bus garage was built in 1950. When you first go down 17, you look over to the right, you'll see the original bus garage right there. And then the metal building, which was built behind that, was built in 1975. All other facilities were built during the 1960s. It's important to note that when the original facilities were built, the student population ranged from 5,527 students back in 1950 and 14,435 students in 1975. The average number of schools supported was 19 when these facilities were built. Looking at the slides right there also, what I'd like to do is when the board approved the capital improvement plan in December of 2021, you'll notice that the highlighted areas were the items that we also identified that were of need. That was the Educational Support Center, the school bus garage, and school nutrition. Those items, while they didn't have a timeline on them, they were identified as a critical need, and we wanted to proceed as soon as we could, working with funding. When you look at the Educational Support Center, we're talking about approximately 12 acres. And of that 12 acres, the main buildings that were built were 1963 and 1964. So they housed the elementary, OVS elementary, OVS secondary, the EC, instructional support, finance, HR, and administration. It also does a lot of the professional development happens on these campuses as well, on this campus as well. We have limited parking, meeting, and workspaces. One of the reasons why we're over here at the Skills Center with our Board of Education is because we don't have enough adequate facilities at the central offices. Existing spaces that would continue to be housed for this over in that location would be operations, distribution, and possibly IT. We'd be looking at IT to see if it would be better served to go into the central offices or stay where we're at. When you're looking at transportation, as mentioned, they were built in 1950 to 1975. They have approximately 17,500 square feet. Currently, we serve approximately 250 buses and 200 vehicles with the transportation center. And right now, we have insufficient space to work with them. If you notice that one picture in the middle that's slanted to the right, that's our lift for the buses. So in other words, if we want to work underneath the buses, what we have to do is we have to drive them outside, drive them up the ramp, get them up the ramp, and so we can get underneath them to work on them. So we're actually working on the buses outside instead of inside because we have insufficient space and equipment. School nutrition was built in 1969 to serve 19 schools. It's about 11,000 square feet. We currently serve about 40 facilities, 40 facilities. When you start looking at the early college and stuff, it gets a little complicated how we count that, but it's about 40 facilities. It doesn't meet current ADA standards. You look at that bottom picture right there, you'll notice that the steps right there, that leads up to the freezers. That also leads up to the only bathroom that's in that building. So it doesn't meet ADA requirements. So currently, Onslow County Schools Central Services supports 41 instructional facilities with a student population of approximately 27,750 students. That changes daily by a student or two. The needs of Onslow County School students, staff, and community have far exceeded the capacity of the existing facilities. As we identify funding sources for this project, it is important for us to have shovel-ready plans in place for the design and construction of the new facilities. Onslow County Schools will require the services of an architectural firm for the design, bidding, and construction management for the new facilities, and an RFQ for an architect was advertised late September, early October of 2022. 8 architectural firms submitted completed packets for review. They were Walker Group, Pinnacle Architecture, Oakley Collier Architects, which is in no relation to Miss Oakley, CRA Associates, Smith Sinnott Architecture, Davis Kane Architects, and Bowman Murray Hemingway. After review from the Architectural Selection Committee, staff has identified Smith Sinnott Architecture as the most responsible and responsive firm for the project based on design capacities, detailed construction administration, and work experience within Onslow County. So at this time, staff would ask the board to consider approval of Smith Sinnott Architecture for the design work, bidding, and construction administration to build new central facilities, and if approved and in accordance with General Statute 143-6431, staff would begin contract negotiations with Smith Sinnott Architecture to establish conditions of the contract at a reasonable price. If contract conditions and reasonable price cannot be established, then staff would negotiate with Bowman Murray Hemingway to perform the work at a reasonable price. Once the reasonable terms are established, staff will present the architectural design contract to the board for their consideration.
At this time, may I have a motion to approve the negotiations, the award of a negotiation for Smith Sinnott Architecture for central services and facilities?
I would like to make a motion to approve Smith & Sinnott Architecture to complete these architectural services for these facilities.
May I have a second? Discussion.
Thank you for this, Steve. We've already seen this before, but I just want to state on the record that I believe that these are obviously long overdue, like most of you do. Being ADA compliant is very important for any public institute or organization like Onslow County Schools or any government facility. So I just wanted to put that on the record. Also, yes, we have outgrown central office. I think we all know that. So I'm looking forward to seeing all of this go forward, as well as the bus garage. Because like you said, you're working out in the elements on these buses, and whether that's rain or wind or whatever, there's somebody out there working on that. So thank you for this, and I look forward to seeing the outcome.
Thank you, Ms. Oakley. Mr. Reddick.
Mr. Chair, I don't know whether this is the appropriate time, Steve, but do we have a site at this point for the facilities that are mentioned here?
The first areas that we would look at for sites would be for the central offices would probably be right across from the Skill Center. We have an additional 14 acres over there that we could be looking at. Now that may change once we get into more details, but that's the initial area that we're looking at. For school nutrition, they would stay on site where they're at, and we would renovate and expand as needed. And then for transportation, that's an area that in the past we have discussed. Maybe over at Meadowview, we have plenty of acreage over there we can work with, but we'll also look at some other opportunities too that we are looking at. Maybe we can find some, ideally, if we could find some property that's next to the central offices right now, that we could have school nutrition, maintenance, transportation all in one area, that would be great. And so we're going to be looking at that too, but we do have land available for all 3 locations.
Okay, yeah, I really like the idea of having this Burton Park area the site for our central services of the county office, as we have said for decades now. I think it's a good fit. I mean, you know, we've got county government right across the street here. We've got a great facility here that certainly speaks volumes for our footprint in this area as far as skill center and education that connects with the whole region. So I think that's a great idea.
Now, the acreage that's by the current bus garage, I saw a for sale sign there a few weeks ago. Would that be something we could look into?
That's something we can look into. Right now, we have about 13 acres where we're at. But when you're looking at property, one of the things you want to look at is the highest, best use of property as well. And the bus garage probably is in a location now where it could be better utilized for other type of businesses or entities. And so what we would be looking at possibly is, we can look at expanding it over there. The other thing is, what would happen if we looked at expanding behind the central office is one of the things I'm curious about. I'd like to find out more about. And then also Meadowview is another area where we'd have better use of property and best use of property as well.
Thank you.
One thing about the current bus garage property, it's marketable, so the board in the future could consider selling that property.
Yeah.
And use that to defray the cost of the new, some amount of the cost of the new bus garage.
Yes, sir. I think, I'm sorry.
I don't believe that, you can't sell that property and build a new bus garage, but it would help.
I think we looked at that a couple years back, about 2 years ago, and we did an appraisal on the property. It was around $2.2 million. So in that process, what we would be doing is, if we built in another location, we would build first, then give the county the first opportunity for that property before we sell it.
I believe the location that you're talking about, Ms. Oakley, is, it was an old repair place, if I'm not mistaken, right there on the
That's
corner.
one beside it, there's one behind it, closer
Okay.
to Walmart.
That area is busting with industrial and shopping areas right now, so I think that prime property, they would be more than willing to snatch that up if we were in the mood to, or in the market to sell it, so it's good. Any other comments, concerns?
Have the lines around the skill center, are there any concerns with getting like the wetlands permits or anything like that?
We've already done, when we first did the skill center, we did initial wetland studies and for the whole property and stuff. What we do know is that that the lands towards the edge of the property are silty, so we want to make sure we reinforce the area so we don't have runoff like we did with the last Hurricane Florence storm. But other than that, the property is in good shape.
I think it's important for the public to understand that the reason that we're going through this architectural services contract right now is to prepare us in the future to be able to build these facilities. It's been known that this is a need for many, many years, long before I became a board member. This has always been a priority need in here. We've outgrown the facilities that we currently have. Obviously schools, and that has been a priority in the past, but at some point, the facilities outgrow their usefulness. We outgrow the usefulness of the facilities. And all of the three facilities that we're talking about right now have done that long time ago. We have simply been kicking this can down the road for many, many years, and the architectural services contract will give us a blueprint to be able to go out there and seek funding sources and further produce what we need to do in the community in order to engender the support to go ahead with these projects. Any other comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The matter carries. Thank you, Mr. Myers. Okay, the next item on the agenda is a closed session. And the board will go into closed session pursuant to the open meetings law. That would be statute 143-318.11A8 to formulate plans by a local board of education relating to the emergency response to incidents of school violence. May I have a motion to go into closed session?
Motion to go into closed session.
May I have a second? Okay, we are in closed session. Thank you. May I have a motion to come out of closed session, please?
So moved.
May I have a second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are back in open session, and just in time for me to ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.